Hello and welcome back to the Shutter Sports Refresh, the weekly show that breaks down all of the most important news in sports for you from the past week. I'm your host Finn Noel, and let's get started. For our first piece of news, F1 is officially back from its mid-season break. The Dutch Grand Prix went down and it was won by a racer who was kind of cast aside in the early start of this season. And that driver is LANDO Norris of McLaren. He had a rough start to the season but has now won back-to-back Grand Prix in the Hungarian Grand Prix and the Dutch Grand Prix. And that recent success has gotten him to 4th in the driver's standings. But unfortunately, 2nd place in the Dutch Grand Prix this weekend was the number 1 in the driver's standings in A.K. Antonelli. So with that 2nd place finish, he firmly holds his lead at the top of the driver's standings. And Antonelli's teammate on Mercedes and George Russell finished 3rd. The F1 season is slowly starting to come to a close, with the next Grand Prix being the Italian Grand Prix on September 6th. Moving over, let's do a quick standings check in the WNBA. The hottest team in the league by far are the Minnesota Lynx, who have won 6 games in a row. They're now trying to reach the top of the standings with just under a month left in the regular season. One of their star players in Nafisa Collier recently returned from injury, and that has really helped them get hot here toward the end of the season. That is a legendary season coming from Minnesota. Stay tuned for future refreshes as we'll give you updates on the WNBA standings as they come. Moving into some soccer news now, the English Premier League has started its play for the 2026 and 2027 season. And folks, we already have a shocking loss. And that was the giant in Man United losing to Hull City, who last season weren't even in the Premier League at all. They were recently promoted. Hull City scored 2 goals early and Man United was just unable to recover. But we can't read into things too much as it is just the first game of the season, but we'll have to keep an eye out on these teams. And staying on the topic of soccer, there's also some news in the transfer market. The reigning champions of the Premier League, Arsenal, have made another signing. They've added the defender Ezri Konda to their team, coming over from Aston Villa. And this was a big contract costing £60 million. With all of these additions that Arsenal is making through this transfer window, they're looking to repeat as back-to-back Premier League champions. The soccer season is just getting started, so keep coming back to the refresh and we will let you know. Moving over to tennis now, the US Open, the last Grand Slam of the year, has finally started. And Carlos Alcaraz, who won the US Open last year, is looking to defend his title. The Spanish Alcaraz has been out of commission for 4 months, but finally is able to return for this tournament. He was unable to play in the last 2 Grand Slams, so he's definitely coming back with a vengeance. Stay tuned to the refresh and we'll give you updates on the US Open as it goes down. And for our last piece of news this week, let's give you a recap of the baseball standings. There's just 1 month in the regular season left and things are getting scary for the playoff race. We'll start in the American League and more specifically the AL East division. Now the top 3 teams in the AL East are also the top 3 teams in the entire American League. Those 3 teams are the Tampa Bay Rays, the New York Yankees, and the Boston Red Sox. Now the Rays have faltered in the last couple weeks, leaving the door open for those other 2 teams to take over the division and the record of best in the league. Moving over to the AL Central now, that division is led by the Chicago White Sox, with the Cleveland Guardians treading water behind them, and they're currently tied for the last wildcard spot in the American League with the Texas Rangers. Now strangely enough, the Kansas City Royals have been on fire, winning 9 of their last 10 games. But they're still 16 games under 500. It's amazing that they're having this hot streak, but it seems to be just a little bit too late. Moving over to the AL West, it continues to be the worst division in the entire MLB. The aforementioned Rangers and the Houston Astros are tied for the division lead, but both of these teams are somehow under 500 on the season. No team in modern baseball history has won a division with a record of under 500, but that could be in the cards this year as the AL West is pretty crappy. Moving over to the National League now. The NL East is still topped by the Atlanta Braves, but the Philadelphia Phillies have charged to within 3 games of that lead. The Phillies have gone 9-1 in their last 10, while the Braves have just gone 3-7. We'll have to keep an eye out on that battle. Then in the NL Central, it's the Milwaukee Brewers who continue to dominate the division, being one of 2 teams in the entire MLB with 80 wins or more. And they're continuing to chug along strong as the Chicago Cubs sit behind them in 2nd. And finally, in the NL West division, the other 80-win team in the MLB, the LA Dodgers, lead that division. They're followed by the San Diego Padres, who have tied up the last wildcard spot in the National League. Keep in mind though, the Padres are still battling with the 69-win Arizona Diamondbacks, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that battle as well. Now here's a fun stat for you. If the Diamondbacks were in the AL Central or the AL West division, they would be leading either division. But because they're in the National League, unfortunately, they're fighting for a playoff spot. What a crazy time to be an MLB fan. But we'll have to keep you updated on the MLB as news comes, and that will do it for this week's episode of the Shutter Sports Refresh. I'm your host, Finn Noel, and you can check me and our writer Lucky Roberts out on Instagram right below my head. And don't forget to check out the Shutter Sports Refresh on Instagram, where we give you breaking news, not just weekly recaps. Thanks for watching.